God help you if the thorns broke the skin. He gave them the names, and he saw the packages flying over the prescription counter. He saw the greedy hands grab them from the candy rack. He saw the names on the packaging printed over and over, even when the gum wrappers were bunched up into little beetles of foil and skittered in the gutters. He saw the name printed on it and knew it was his. When they were hauled off to the garbage dump, the names blanched in the sun on the top of the heap and remained, even though what they named had been consumed. To have a name imprinted along the bottom of a styrofoam container, this was immortality. He could see the seagulls swooping around in depressed circles. They couldn't eat it at all. Roger Tipple didn't have a weak chin so much as a very aggressive neck. When he answered Roger's phone call, it was the first thing he remembered. He had always imagined it as a simple allocation problem from back in the womb. After the wide plane of Roger's forehead and his portobello nose, there wasn't much left for the lower half of his face. Even Roger's lips were deprived. They were thin little worms that wiggled around the hole of his mouth. He thought, Rideau chin for the lantern-jawed. Easy enough, but at the moment he couldn't come up with what its opposite might be. He was concentrating on what Roger was saying. The assignment was strange. He hadn't kept up with Roger since his misfortune, as he called it. He hadn't kept up with anyone from the office, and for the most part, they hadn't kept up with him. Who could blame them, really, after what had happened? Occasionally, someone reached out to him, and when they did, he shied away, made noises about changing bandages. Eventually, they gave up. He wasn't expecting the call. For a second, he considered hanging up. If he'd planned it correctly, he would have been up in a hermit cave in the mountains, 2 days' trek from civilization, or in a cabin on the shore of a polluted lake when Roger phoned. A place where you can get the right kind of thinking done for a convalescence after a misfortune. Instead, there he was in his apartment, and they just called him up. He was watching an old black-and-white movie on the television, the kind of flick where nothing happened unless it happened to strings. Every facial twitch had its own score. Every smile ate up 2.5 pages of sheet music. Every little thing walked around with this heavy freight of meaning. In his job, which was his past, present, and future job, even though he had suffered a misfortune, he generally tried to make things more compact. Squeeze down the salient qualities into a convenient package. A smile was shorthand for a bunch of emotion. And here in this old movie, they didn't trust that you would know the meaning of a smile, so they had to get an orchestra. That's what he was thinking about when the phone rang. Wasted rented tuxes. He could almost see the green walls of the office as Roger spoke. Roger's door ajar and the phones on all the desks out there doing their little sonata. If a particular job was really successful, the guys upstairs sent a bronze plaque to your office with the client's name and your name engraved on it, and below that, whatever name you had come up with. Roger had a lot of plaques from before he became a manager, when he was a hotshot. His former boss came into focus as he listened. He saw Roger tapping his pen, crossing out talking points and notes to self as he explained to him how this kind of job wasn't appropriate for the firm because of conflict of interest, and how the client had asked for a recommendation, and he was top of the list. It wasn't appropriate for them, but they'd take the finder's fee. There was some token chit-chat, too. He found out that Merck, the guy the next desk over, his wife had had another baby that was just as ugly as Merck Sr. That kind of stuff. How the baseball team was doing this year. Roger got the chit-chat out of the way and started talk about the client. He had turned the sound off on the television, but he could still figure out what was going on, because a smile is a smile. If Roger had called the week before, he would have said no. He told Roger he'd do it, and when he put the phone down, it came to him. Chin plant. Not his best work. He was into names, so they called him. He was available, so he went. And he went far. He took a plane, grabbed a cab to the bus station, and hopped aboard, a bus that took him out of the city. He pressed his nose up to the glass to see what there was to see. The best thing about the suburbs were the garages. God bless garages. The husbands bought do-it-yourself kits from infomercials. Maybe the kits had names like Fix-It or Handy Hal, your hardware pal. And the guys built shelves in the garage, and on the shelves they put products, like cans of water-repellent leather treatment called Aquaway, and boxes of nails called Carter's Fine Points, and something called Lawn Lasting that will prevent droopy blades. Shelves and shelves of all that glorious stuff. He loved supermarkets. In supermarkets, all the names were crammed into their little seats on top of each other, awaiting their final destinations. The ride was another hour and a half, but he didn't mind. He thought about his retainer, which he had deposited that morning. It occurred to him that it was an out-of-state check and would take a few days to clear. Through the window, he watched elephants stampede across the sky. As soon as he stepped out of the airport, he knew it was going to rain because his foot was throbbing, and now the clouds pursued the bus on an intercept course. They finally caught up when he arrived in the town. The bus kneeled at the curb. He stepped out and felt the first few fat drops of rain. It rained most of the time he was there, as if the clouds were reluctant to leave after racing all that way to catch him. No one else got off. The town square was a tiny park, boxed by 3 streets, and on the final side by the slow, muddy river. A neat little main drag, he thought. It was clear that they were putting some money into it. The red brick bordering the park was recently laid, obviously set down in the last year or two, and there were holes in the ground surrounded by plastic orange fencing where they were adding the next new improvement or other. All the grass in the park was impossibly level. For community service, drunk drivers probably knelt with scissors. People sprinted away from the benches to get out of the rain. They ran into doorways, hid beneath the awnings and overhangs of the stores lining the square. A lot of the stores seemed like him, new arrivals. The same national brands found all over. They were new on the first floor, at any rate. On the second and third stories of the buildings, the original details were preserved, the old-timey shutters and eaves. He imagined crazy aunts and leg irons behind the tiny attic windows of stained glass. In between the new stores, the remaining old establishments hung in there like weeds, with their faded signs and antiquated lures. Dead flies littered the bottom of the ancient window displays, out of reach of arthritic hands. There was this old white guy in a purple plaid sweater vest who didn't care about the rain. The old guy was walking his dog and taking measured little steps, taking in the activity of the street. He took him for the brand of retiree who becomes a night watchman of the afternoons, patrolling the grounds, taking down the license plate numbers of suspicious vehicles. His dog didn't care about the rain either. It was one of those tiny dogs that had a fancy foreign name that assured you it was quality merchandise. As he talked to the old guy, the dog stood a few feet away and sniffed at a promising stain. He asked him if he knew where he could find the Hotel Winthrop. The guy looked at him through the droplets on his bifocals and said, "You're in it, son?" "I know I'm in Winthrop," he said. "I'm looking for the Hotel Winthrop." He extended the piece of paper in his hand. "Number 12, Winthrop Street." The old guy raised the hand that held the dog leash and pointed across the park, and that's when it really started raining. He said to himself, "Bottle a certain musty essence and call it Old Venerable. Spray it around the house and your humble abode might smell like the Winthrop suite of the Hotel Winthrop."